In this video, we're going to go over some drawing tools for 2D sketches in SolidWorks. So in the top left here, we have our command manager. Okay, and one of the toolbars we can use is the sketch toolbar. When we're working in 2D, basically all of our tools that we're going to use are on this toolbar. Alright, so the first thing is these 9 tools here, and these are your drawing tools. Okay, so you have a box, line, circle, an arc, and a couple other shapes. Okay, the down arrow on these gives you different options. So a center line, a midpoint line, different ways to draw a circle, different ways to draw a rectangle. So those can be helpful in different circumstances. When you draw a shape, there's 2 ways to do it. You can click and drag a shape, okay, and then let go and it'll place it, or you can click, move your mouse, and then click again. Okay, either way works. The only one that is a little bit different is the line tool. If you click, move your mouse, click again, it will connect that line. Whereas if you click and drag with the line tool, then it'll just make one line and then stop. Okay, so those are pretty easy. The most helpful tool in here is the Smart Dimension tool. So I'm going to draw a few shapes here to show some examples. The Smart Dimension tool allows you to measure out shapes without having to make the lines perfect the first time. Okay, so if I wanted to measure the size of this rectangle, I can click on the side, move my mouse over, and then put that dimension in, and I can type it to be whatever I want. Remember, this is the reason that CAD is so useful. So if I want it to be 3 inches, I can type 3, hit enter, and that line now is exactly 3 inches. If I wanted to change that, I can just go back, double click on the number, and then I can retype in and change that value to whatever I want it to be. Okay, so that's the simplest way to use the tool. You click on the line, move your mouse a little bit into the blank space, and then click again, and that will place that dimension there. Okay, for circles it's a little bit different. You just click on the outside edge, and this will give you a diameter. So diameter is from one side of the circle to the other side, and then it works the same way. You click and type it in. Okay, another thing the Smart Dimension tool can do is measure between 2 things. So if I wanted to make this the center of this circle a certain distance from the edge of this shape, I can click on the edge of the shape and then move my mouse over and click on the center of the circle, and that's going to give me a dimension between the center of the circle and that shape that I can change. Okay, so you can use the Smart Dimension tool for spacing. And then this is another example of that. You can Smart Dimension between 2 lines as well. Okay, so if you had 2 rectangles or 2 lines or something like that, you can measure the distance between those 2 shapes. Oops. All right, next thing is editing your lines and shapes that you've drawn. So first thing to look at is how to select different shapes and lines. When you hold your mouse over a line, it's going to turn orange, and that shows you what you're going to be clicking on. Okay, so if I move my mouse over this line, it turns orange, and that's telling me that I'm going to be clicking on that line. If I just went over the center point, okay, that would turn orange. If I just went over the corner, just the corner would turn orange, over the circle, okay? So when you put your mouse over whatever you want to click, when you select it, it's going to turn light blue, and it's going to show you this little green square. Okay, so when it turns light blue, that's how you know what you have selected. And then the green square that shows up, this is what's called a relationship. Okay, so you can see it over on the side here. So this green square is saying that this line has to be vertical. So if I try to move it, right now it's locked with a smart dimension. If I try to move that line, I can move it around, but I cannot make it so it's not vertical. Okay, it has to stay vertical the whole time. I can show you this with the line too. Okay, so if I snap this to be vertical, then when I try to move it, okay, it'll move around, but it won't change. Now if I delete this green square, so same thing, it turns orange, click on it, turns light blue, and hit delete. Okay, now I can move it to angles and I can move it around however I want. So if you're trying to move something and it's not working, it might be because one of those little green squares is on it that is constraining it and making it so that it cannot move. All right, last thing for this video is deleting lines and shapes. So to delete a line, you just need to select it, and then you're going to hit the delete key on your keyboard, okay? Not the backspace key. The delete key is a little bit to the right of the backspace key, and it's directly above the left arrow key. Okay, so when you do that, that will delete the line out, and it'll be gone. To undo, you can hit Control-Z. Just know there's no redo, so if you undo a bunch of times and get rid of something that you didn't want to, you can't really get it back. There is a way to select multiple things at once. So if you click and drag, you'll make a box that can select multiple shapes at once. The blue box, going from left to right, will select anything that it completely encompasses. So for example, the line at the bottom that's not completely covered is not going to get selected, but the two shapes are. If you go from right to left, this is going to select anything that it touches. So all of the shapes are going to get selected. All right, last thing for this is when you select a line, there is options over here in the feature design tree that you can change on the lines. So for example, if I wanted this line to be a horizontal and I accidentally drew it a little bit on an angle, all I have to do is click on it and then select horizontal, and that will rotate it for me. Okay, and you're going to see this we're going to do with our borders. If you have a border around the outside that you don't want to move at all, you can select fix in place. So when I click this, my line is going to turn black, and that's going to make it so that I cannot move that line at all. Okay, it's fixed in place. I can click on it and delete the fixed, but until I do that, it'll stay black. So any black line cannot be moved. So you see that with other shapes. As you're putting your smart dimensions in, the shapes will turn black when they become fully defined. Okay, see how the sides of this square or rectangle are turning black now too? So I have all my smart dimensions in for it. I cannot move this shape at all. All right, that's it for this video on editing and creating sketches in 2D in SolidWorks.